Hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah, there you go.
There he is. Awesome. Thank you for sticking with us, guys, and welcome back to Team Jack Live. Again, I'm your host, Jeremiah Sirles. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by former Nebraska Cornhusker, current Kansas City Royal, the second overall pick in the 2005 MLB draft. He was part of the 2005 Royal World Series champion. He's won 7 Gold Gloves, and he's really involved in Team Jack. And we are extremely grateful, and we are extremely happy to have him with us. How are you doing today, Alex?
Doing well. So I'm a little bit late today. The doctor's appointment I had today kind of went a little bit overdue. So I'm glad to be here now, though.
Hey, there's no worries, man. We're excited that you're here. Again, we appreciate you joining us here. You're one of the original Team Jack All-Stars, man. I mean, Alex Gordon supports Team Jack t-shirt was one of the first ones that was printed and sold and sent around. And I mean, you help with the Radiothon every single year. You donated that awesome the Club Royals package every year for the gala. I've bid on it a few times, but always seems to get a little out of my price range there towards the end. And you've helped raise over $15,000 for Team Jack. So yeah. Again, we thank you so much, and we appreciate you joining here. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump into some of the questions that we have here. I mean, right now is a weird time. I got a lot of buddies that are in the MLB, and they're just sitting at home right now when they really shouldn't be. I mean, what have you been doing now with this weird kind of limbo period that you're in?
It's crazy, and everybody's going through, kind of the same situation, but just trying to deal with what the world's going through right now. And we were about a week away from starting our season in spring training, and then we found out the news, and then it was just kind of, where do we go from there? And everybody kind of went back to their homes. And for me, luckily, I built a cage in the backyard. I have a weight room downstairs, so I've been pretty fortunate to stay somewhat game ready. So when that call did happen, and hopefully happens soon, I'm ready to go, and I didn't lose everything I worked hard on in the off season and in spring training. So just trying to stay as much game ready as I could, given the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I know that from my aspect, you kind of work your way when you're training. You want to reach your peak right before season begins, because it's really hard to maintain that like peak physical performance for a long time. I mean, you guys were weeks away from reaching that peak. So did you taper back down and then try and work your way back up to get back to where you want to be? Or are you just trying to kind of stay the course of that peak game ready shape that you're in?
Yeah, you said it. I'm just trying to stay, what I've gained. I'm not trying to peak. I know we're going to have another spring training, and I think everybody knew that too. So just trying to keep what we gain in the off season and spring training, and keep that momentum that we built as much as possible. So when that call did come, and they told us, they warned us, hey, when that call comes, it's going to happen quick, and spring training is going to happen quick, and then the season. So just be as ready as possible as you can, given what you're available to do and to have.
Yeah, so with this extra time, I mean, what have you been up to? Are you back here in Nebraska? I'm guessing that's home.
We actually live full time in Kansas City. We used to live full time in Lincoln, but our kids I got 2 boys, 9 and 6, and then a little girl that's 2. And when the kids started going to school, we had to make a kind of a big decision whether to keep them in school in Lincoln and kind of go back and forth, or just be full time in Kansas City. So we're full time in Kansas City. We're here right now, and we try to venture as much as we can back to Nebraska, because that's where my wife's family's from, and my family too. So we're just hunkered down in Kansas City at our house, and just doing the homeschooling, which I know everybody else is doing too, and trying to keep them busy as much as possible.
Absolutely, man. I mean, again, these are crazy times, but I know I've been really excited to spend the extra time with the family. It's been nice, but man, it's got to be weird. So you were down in Arizona for spring training. Does your family come with you to spring training? Do you kind of go down there solo, and then when season comes, they come back to Kansas City, or how does that work for you, or how's that evolved for you, I guess, over the years?
Yeah, it's changed over the years with the kids. Kids always put a wrinkle in everything. They used to come down before school started all the time, and it was like a vacation, just being nice weather, pools, parks, everything, baseball. So they'd love it. They come down for a month and a half and just enjoy all of it. But now that the kids are in school, they come out with me when I first go for about a week, and then they come for spring break, which kind of breaks it up that I'm not missing them for an extended period of time where, um, I'll go like a week and a half without seeing them, but then they'll come out for spring break. So it's changed over the years, and we've kind of rolled with it. But uh, just for us, keeping the family together as much as possible is very important for us.
Absolutely. So I know that there was a proposal that was for the MLB to start up here fairly certain. Have you got a chance to look at that, or kind of what are your thoughts on what might happen here as the season progresses?
We're kind of in the dark right now. I know just I pretty much know everything that you guys know from internet,
Mhm.
ESPN, stuff like that, and we haven't communicated yet with the Players Association. I know they're probably doing their due diligence with MLB and the owners and stuff like that right now, but we haven't been addressed yet. We've heard all the rumors and speculations, and we'll kind of address that as we get the information sent our way.
I just keep thinking about, man, what if they push the season? You got to go do a nice home series or a away series in Minneapolis in about mid-December. That would be really good times, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the league for 14, 15 years and seen it all, so it wouldn't be that big of an adjustment to going to Minnesota in the cold weather, but we'll figure it out. I'm from Nebraska, so I'm used to it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you mentioned this will be your 15th season, correct?
Well,
14, 15, somewhere in there.
drafted 2005. First year was 2006 in the minors. My rookie year was 2007. So I don't know, do the math. I wasn't very good at
A
it.
long time. You've been in the MLB a long time. I mean, Nebraskans have been following you forever. We're thrilled that you're so close to home, coming back for another year with those Royals. I mean, what makes you so proud to be part of an organization and come back year after year to the place like Kansas City?
Well, it started for me being a fan of the Royals growing up and being so close to it and being fortunate enough to go as high as I did as a pick, but also go somewhere close where my friends and family could see me all the time. So that I was lucky in that kind of sense. And then just being in the organization and being around some of the people that you surround yourself with in the organization, like Dayton Moore, Ned Yost, who's gone now, but
Mhm.
just people, it's just good people, and you wanted to stay true and loyal to them as much as possible. And the longer I was with Kansas City, the more I knew that I didn't want to go anywhere else. So as my career kind of continued, there was really no thought in my head about playing for another team or another coach or another GM. So it's just people. It's a good organization with good quality people.
I feel like that's extremely rare. I mean, I could be wrong. I know in the NFL, if you get a guy that plays for one team for, I mean, as long as your career, that's very, very rare. Is that pretty common in baseball, or I mean,
I,
are you one of the outliers?
I think it used to be more common than it is now. I feel like now guys, go to free agency and just go wherever they want. And um, not that that's not being loyal or anything. I think times have just changed, and that's just how it is. But for me, personally, it just felt right to stay here and stay close to my family, my friends, and my foundation that I've built in Nebraska and Kansas City. So it just taking money, taking everything out of the picture, just thinking about that kind of stuff was huge for me.
Absolutely. You've had some awesome moments. You've had some memorable moments, but what are some of your most memorable moments, whether it be college or in the MLB, that you look back on in your career, and those ones that really stick out to you?
Well, always winning was always important for me. That's why you play is to be successful, to win, and obviously at Nebraska, what was huge for that junior year when we went to the World Series was our sophomore year. We didn't make the postseason, so there was a lot of guys coming back on the team that were upset about not making the postseason, just having a down year, and all the motivation that went into the off season and leading up to that season. Just the chemistry, the training, just being a team, and then finally seeing it pan out to go to the World Series. And being a college student at the time, you get some good crowds at the stadiums, but when you go to Rosenblatt and it's just filled with Husker red, and you're pulling up in your bus, and people are banging on the bus to for a celebration, you're kind of feeling like rock stars in college. So that's something I'm never going to forget. being at Nebraska. And then obviously, with Kansas City, like I talked about with Nebraska, just losing, and then finally pushing through in 14 and 15 was, something that I'll never forget. And the guys on the teams, we still talk about it to this day and still share memories and stuff like that. So it was awesome.
I mean, I touched a little bit. You touched a tad on it, like the hunger. But I mean, what makes championship teams so special? I mean, I was lucky enough to be on an NFC championship team that went to the Viking when I was with the Vikings, and you just knew that locker room was different than what you'd ever been in. I mean, talk a little bit as far as from your experience about what makes championship locker rooms so special.
Well, I think it's chemistry. I think it's everybody getting along, everybody pulling together. I've been on teams with a lot of talent that hasn't didn't do anything just because we didn't have the chemistry that we did on my more successful teams. And in 14 and 15, I can just speak of it. Having the guys that from 2011, 2012, 2013, trying to push through and losing and not making it, just having those same guys come back year after year, it just brought us together stronger. And, what I thought helped with us was having Ned Yost as our manager, because there was a lot of ups and downs during that time, but there's one guy that always stuck by our side and always had our back and gave us confidence, and that was Ned Yost. And to have that as your leader to filter down in the clubhouse was big for us, pushing through and finally making the playoffs and believing in ourselves. And it was because we had that leader that believed in us, and it made a huge difference for those 2 seasons.
Talking about leaders, talking about people that like you look up to or go forward, who were some role models for you growing up, maybe through college and even when you got young into the MLB, guys that maybe took you under their wing, or how have you maybe become a leader and a mentor in the MLB now?
Well, I think you become a mentor and a leader by learning from what you've seen and what you've dealt with. And luckily for me, I've had a lot of people I could mention. I probably can't name them all during this time, but growing up, my dad and my mom were just great people, led by example, and hardworking, blue collared people, and it was good for me and my 3 brothers. And then I had an older brother, Eric, who still lives in Lincoln now, but he was 3 years older than me, and I was fortunate enough to play on his teams growing up, which was a 3-year difference, which gave me a jump start in my career and with competition and everything like that. And to have a brother that had my back and supported me during those times was huge. So I always look up to him, and um, all my success that I have is because of my parents and my older brother. So those were huge. And then get into the big leagues. 2007, I made a jump from AA to the big leagues. Just didn't play AAA, so it was kind of a big jump, and I was a little overwhelmed at the time. But having a veteran on the team like Mike Sweeney, who been around the game, been around the organization for so long, he took me under his wing from day one. I remember he told the clubhouse guy that you make sure you put Alex's locker next to mine because I'm taking care of him here. And I kind of started off, be overwhelmed, a little nervous, and started off struggling, and I ended up pulling through and actually having a pretty good season overall with all the struggles I dealt with at the beginning. And it was because of guys like Mike Sweeney and even guys like Reggie Sanders, Mark Gruzonik. So you kind of look up to those guys and you learn from them, and then you kind of apply them to where you're at now. And having a young team with Kansas City now, and me being the veteran guy, the guy that's been around the longest, I try to pass that knowledge along, and with what I've learned and also with what I believe in. So it's just being open-minded and learning from other leaders, and always learning. So I think that's where I've got it from and where I am now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love watching guys. I know when I was a rookie, you come in, you're losing your mind, right? You don't know up from down. And then all of a sudden it feels like in a blink of an eye, you've got young rookies looking at you like, hey, what should I do? And it's like, man, that goes quick, man. That goes really fast. So awesome that you stepped into that role. It doesn't surprise me in the least hearing just what kind of guy you are and where you've been. So Kind of a question from the audience here that someone chimed in. In your opinion, who is the greatest baseball player of all time?
Ooh, I mean, that's a pretty big question.
It's a loaded question, I'm sure.
I mean, there's a lot of them. I grew up um, admiring and trying to put my game to Ken Griffey Jr. Um, I know he kind of fizzled out at the end, but during his prime, being a left-handed swinger too, just his swing, his how easy he made it look, and how much fun he looked like he was having playing professional baseball was, I think, not only myself but a lot of other kids looked up to and try to emulate, um, growing up. So, you know, Ken Griffey. I'm good friends with George Brett, which I'm pretty fortunate to have such a good relationship with him now. Being that when I was growing up, I was a Kansas City fan, and everybody's favorite player was George Brett, and now having a good relationship with him now is just something I can't even explain, and something I will always cherish. So those two guys come to my mind just thinking about it, but I'm sure that's a pretty broad question. I'm sure there's many different answers, but for me, I would go with those two.
Absolutely. So you mentioned a little bit earlier in here that the homeschooling with the kiddos at home now. Who is the homeschool teacher? You or your wife, and how is that going?
Well, I'm gonna take a wild guess and say in most households it's the wife. So she's doing it. We got a 9-year-old who's in third grade, a 6-year-old who's in kindergarten, and the 9-year-old's a little bit tougher just because the school works harder. But they do get recess time and PE time, and that's usually when I come into play. So uh, thankfully we have the wife that takes care of it and is working so hard to make sure every day they're on top of things and they're getting it done. So Mother's Day was just a couple days ago, and I know I made sure that I said Happy Mother's Day about 20 more times than I would usually hear because of what they're going through right now.
Absolutely, guys. If you're just joining us here, we're wrapping up here in the last 15 minutes of our interview here. We want questions from you guys. That's why we do this live every Thursday, Team Jack Live. Alex is joining us this week. If you got questions for him, make sure you type them in here. We'll try and get to as many as we can here as we're wrapping up. Alex, you and your wife always supported childhood cancer. It's been something you said your foundation's near and dear to you. You had a special bond with a little boy, Charlie, who was diagnosed with brain cancer at age 3. We all read about the moment when you hit the run for Charlie, and kind of tell us a little bit about that moment and what your mindset was like as that was going on.
Well, I'll tell you kind of the story. Charlie, I think it was 2009, 2010, around there is when I first started getting involved in Alex's lemonade stand, and it was just kind of a coincidence. The Royals came to me and was like, "Hey, since your name's Alex and this is a foundation that's kind of starting to grow in Kansas City, it'd be cool if you just did a meet and greet with some kids out here before the game." And sure enough, I did, and kind of fell in love with it. Just seeing the kids' reactions and the smiles and everything like that, and knew that this was something that I wanted to do a much bigger, be a much bigger role in. And Charlie was one of those kids at the time, and we just kind of developed a great relationship at the time, and it kind of just carried over. And the great news was Charlie was fought through his cancer and then was cancer free for a couple years, and then this past year it came up again, and he had to go into surgery pretty quickly after they found it, and it was during our season. And I was reached out to by the family who I've got to know over the years and adore immensely, and just found out about him, and my heart was broken just because knowing what he's been through and what he's going to have to go through again. I just started thinking about, what's a little gesture I can do right now to kind of pick his spirits up. I know it's maybe something small, but I think it was the night before his surgery, and I told him, "Hey, just watch the game tonight. I'm going to do something special." And I had a yellow armband, which is kind of the color of Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, and put his name on it, and made sure that Ryan Lefevre, Rex Hudler knew what was going on, and kind of give him a shout out during the game. I didn't know what was going to happen, to hit a home run on the first pitch, and then kind of pat the armband and kind of give him a shout out, and then coming inches away from him for a cycle that night. It was just something that was out of my control. I think it was something that, God was just looking over us and just said, "Hey, we're going to make this night special for this kid." And sure enough, that's what happened. And just the response I got from him and his family after the game was you just knew that this little gesture that you did was worked out in like a big way. So it was special for not only him but for me too.
Absolutely. That's such a cool story, man. It's awesome to hear every time. Appreciate you again for all you do with childhood cancer. It's near and dear to all of our hearts. So again, thank you so much for that. One question we got here is, you've been in the league going in 14, 15 years now. Have you started thinking about some post-career things that you might be wanting to do, or some interests that you have outside of baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of thought about it. I've always told my wife, because she always asks me that question too. And just being grinding for as long as we have. If you've been in Major League Baseball, you know that 162 games, playing 15 years, is you miss out on a lot of things in life. Living out of a suitcase, activities with kids. So after I'm all said and done, I definitely want to take a year, possibly two off, and just enjoy my time with the family and catch up on what I've missed over the years with the kids and with the wife and the family. Like I said, the family. So, and then kind of go from there. I know, more than likely it'll be something with baseball, just because my passion, my love. But I'm also, big on training. Just overall training for sports and stuff like that. So I could venture into something like that as far as like a personal trainer or owning a place like that. So we'll see. There's like I said, I got a lot of time to think, and after it happens, so I'll try to come up with something then.
Absolutely. All right, we're back to the question for the audience, guys. Last chance here to get some questions in for Alex, if you got any. One we just got in, we said baseball players are known for pulling pranks on each other. You guys see on ESPN stuff all the time. What is the best one that you've been a part
Um,
of? That you can tell on via Zoom here.
there's some I might not be able to tell you, but I mean, just being a part of a good chemistry team, you're going to have pranks all the time during a 162 game season. There was one where I'll just give you one for now. One of our teammates, I'm not going to say who, but put food coloring in the bubble gum, and some guys chew tobacco, I know, and tobacco. And so during the game, when they're chewing their gum or their tobacco, their whole mouth was green. And it was really funny for the guys that it didn't happen to, but for the guys it did happen to that were playing in the game, I mean, at the time they didn't think it was that funny, because usually you pull pranks that happen in the clubhouse, or
Right.
people were, you know, Moustakis is running out the third base with a mouthful, it's green, and everybody's wondering why. So it was a funny prank, but at the same time, not so funny with for the guys that happened to. So many more pranks where that came from. I think that's what makes baseball so much fun, and just keeping it so lighthearted and having a good time. So.
Absolutely. Another question we just got in here is there any specific players that you really miss from your former days in KC playing with? I know you touched on your mentors, I'm sure, but is there any other guys that you just really missed that were there earlier?
I mean, yeah, I mean, all of them from the 15-14 season. I think looking back on it now, there's only Duffy, Salvador Perez, and uh, myself on the team now. So all those guys, Moustakis, Kane, Hochever, over your career, you meet a lot of good people and have a lot of good relationships with people, and not only them but their family too. So, I'd say my overall favorite teammate, not my best friend or anything like that, but just my favorite teammate as far as how he treated people, how he played on the field, how he interacted in the clubhouse with the media, all that stuff was probably Hosmer. Just all around, just good person. Not that anybody else was, but he was just kind of over the top with everything, and just his productivity on the field, off the field, everything was something that I loved seeing and kind of missed in Kansas City.
Absolutely. I mean, you touched on it, but one question we also got here is how did playing in the World Series in 14 compare to playing in 15? Obviously, two different teams, two different opportunities, but if you could pick maybe one big difference, what would that be?
Well, everybody's going to look at 15, 5 years later, 10 years later as a season that was, magical. But really, for me, 14 was so much more fun than, not that 15 wasn't fun at all. I loved every minute of it, but just the whole how we, broke through after 30 years of not doing it, and the city coming together as it did. And not only that, but sneaking into the playoffs, having that wild card game the way we did, and then moving on and going to 8-0 in the postseason for a team that no one expected to be there, and winning in extra innings and stuff like that. It was I can't even explain how much fun it was, but it was just looking back on it now, it was just a blur because we just play. We'd win somehow, figure out a way to win in extra innings, fly to the next city, do it again, and it was just after the season's over, you kind of sit back and you're like, wow, I'm exhausted. But during the time, you're just adrenaline's kicking in, the excitement of the fans, and you're just living in the moment. And 2014 was a blast, even though we came up, 90 feet short. But it was something that we can look back on and be proud of because I don't think anybody expected us to be where we were.
Absolutely. All right, last question for you here, Alex. Do you think do you think your kids will follow in your footsteps? Do they love baseball? Do they want to play baseball just like that, or do they maybe have another passion that they're loving at right now?
You know what? I don't care. As long as they're healthy and happy, if they want to play baseball, they can. If they don't, if they want to play basketball, if they want to be an artist, they can do whatever they want. So I just want them to be happy and healthy, especially during these times. So if baseball is their calling, then so be it. But if not, then I'll be right there as their biggest fan in whatever they do.
Awesome, Alex. Well, again, we can't thank you enough. That wraps it up for this week's episode. A special thank you to you and all that you do for helping fight this childhood disease.
Yep.
If you go to Team Jack right now and donate, anyone who donates any amount in the next 30 minutes will receive an Alex Gordon Kansas Royal Team Jack t-shirt. So make sure you go there and you donate that. And then you can do that at teamjack.org or the teamjackfoundation.org/live to make a donation. And next week, we will be joined by Jordan Larson here on May 21st. We're excited to have her on as our guest at Team Jack Live again every Thursday here at 1 p.m. And again, we thank you all for joining us and sticking around here. Alex, anything you want to say here before you jump off?
No, just thanks for having me. And I think what makes Team Jack so great is, you just spoke about Jordan Larson, and then, Dominic Sue, all these athletes that came together. But I think that's what makes our community, Nebraska, so great, is that we all stick together and we all come together in situations like this. And, I wasn't expecting to be on Team Jack, but when I saw, the coverage and, knowing childhood cancer and knowing all the players that were involved, I wanted to be a part of it right away. So it's just that community, that love and support that we get from our community in Nebraska. So it's great to see.
Absolutely. There's no place like it. So again, thank you again, Alex, and thank you guys for all joining in. I was your host, Jeremiah Sirles. We'll see you next week here at 1 p.m. on Team Jack Live.
Thanks.